Please share the information provided in this video. Always remember that a crucial part of removing a person's confusion is understanding his or her unique source of it. Genesis 1 is a book of the Bible that is often used as a total defeater for any validity in the Bible, because we have so much scientific evidence and data, literally mountains. I mean, you literally look at mountains, there's fossils and all these different layers. There's so many layers. We can tell how long it's grown, how old it is, how big it is, all this. There's no way, the earth is 6,000 years old. Well, new evidence could always come to light in science, and that's part of science, but the important thing to keep in mind is the biblical text does not commit us to a 6,000-year-old earth, for the simple fact that the word that is translated day in the New Testament is the difficult word to translate. It could mean 24 hours, it could mean age, epoch, or eon. So, for example, in English we have words like age, epoch, or eon, but in biblical Hebrew they only had the word yom, and it was the only word for afternoon. And it was the only word for 24 hours. So that doesn't, who knows how to interpret that word. You have to use context clues, just like in Spanish when you say mañana, that can mean tomorrow, morning, or early. You use context clues in the sentence to figure out what it means. The problem is there's very little context clues. There's a morning and evening phrase that comes along with it. It says there was morning and evening, but the problem is those words double as meaning beginning and ending. So it could just mean, the beginning and ending of the time period. Some people make an argument that the Hebrew week was 7 days, so that means that was 7 days, but that doesn't necessarily mean that, because it could symbolize what God did. It's obviously not exactly like what God did, because otherwise they'd be creating the earth every week, which is ridiculous. And then on top of that, the case is made, well, what about all the order of events? I mean, this thing has Genesis has the first life as plants on land. Genesis doesn't have the first life as plants on land. Genesis doesn't have the sun and moon being created, after plants. It doesn't work that way. It actually goes through a list of ancient gods that people worship back then. And it says, this thing you worship as a god today, it's not really a god. And the way it says that is by giving a story of when God created those things that you worship as gods. It's not how God created everything. It's how God created things that people worshipped as gods back then. The problem is we don't read it in Hebrew, so we don't have the names of the gods there, and we don't have any familiarity with Babylonian gods or goddesses. That's not something that's an issue in present day. So when it says He created the earth was without form and void, the earth was chaos, literally the earth was Tiamat, the Babylonian chaos god, the primordial chaos goddess. So it goes through, it's going to skip things like the first life forms, because people didn't worship the first life forms as God. But it actually puts everything in the proper order, just skipping points. Skipping to the next thing they worship as a god. But as far as science tells us, this is in the proper order. The earth would have been chaotic. There would have been an atmosphere creation, which is what it says next. The atmosphere would have been heavy, so there would have been light, but they wouldn't have seen the lights in the sky, which is what it calls the sun and moon, which is what they worship as gods. But there would have been light. The next thing would have been plants, and no one worshipped trilobites, no one worshipped, all these extinct species, no bacteria, whatever. Plants. The next thing would have been plants. Plants would have changed the atmosphere, and then the sun and moon would have appeared, and then plants would have changed even more to deal with a different atmosphere. But the next thing, I don't remember. Oh, it's the creatures of the sea. It actually means sea mammals and birds. So it skips over pretty much the entire evolution of all animals to past all extinct animals to birds and sea mammals, which were worshipped as gods in that day. Then it goes to the land animals, and it's not every land animal. It's just, it's not every animal on land. It actually, the words mean wild carnivores, livestock, and rodents, which are the things they worshipped as divine. So the Genesis 1 is making an argument that there is only one God, and all the things you think are gods are not gods. Where Genesis disagrees with science is in chapter 2, because Genesis 2 says that humans basically did not evolve, which is a huge disagreement with science, especially with the woman being created from the rib and all that. and only 2 humans, that doesn't agree with science. You need evolution, you need a long period with a lot of individuals. Thank you for your time.